right? So if you're only seeing, let's say, school of thought one,
Yeah.
you will continue, the algorithms continue feeding that to you, so they keep you on the platform. So which means that your knowledge or your understanding or your belief only deepens within one function.
Exactly.
Right? You're not going lateral. So how do you move laterally? How do you think openly? And how do you interpret openly? That becomes a challenge. And for me, another big area, which I find it's bigger in South Asia, I don't know if it's as big, is this whole concept of Islamic finance.
Yeah.
You know, there seems to be this, well, there is a movement. Most banks here have moved towards an Islamic banking approach.
Yeah.
But in the Middle East, I don't see the word Islamic banking. I just see banking. You know, why is there such a big movement around finance? And you come from, let's say, a background that can understand and appreciate this.
Yeah.
Why is that here and not there as much?
Actually, it is there. It is everywhere. Islam.
It is everywhere.
It is.
But yet our branding seems to be more in your face.
Yeah. Because our people are, I think it's there. It's in Malaysia, it's in Indonesia, it's in Pakistan, it's in Dubai, and in some ways, Qatar and Saudi, they lead these movements, and most of the conferences for Islamic finance, I'm close to the pioneer of Islamic banking in Pakistan. I've read, Taqi Usmani, Daman Barakatuh, and he's a very big sheikh of our era, and he is the pioneer of this Islamic banking. So most of the visits he does to the Saudi, capital, and so I think it's everywhere, but it's more here because we are more in numbers, actually, and there are more banks, and there's more fanfare here, and whatever is done in.
Yeah, it's celebrated.
So
we like to celebrate.
So it's more visible here. But Islamic finance is there, and Islamic finance, the theoretical framework is sound. And a lot of people ask this question that, it's just the same. You go on the bank is, the same. It's just paperwork. The app is the same. The debit card is the same. And, all of these things. But I say, oh, you don't get the credit card in Islamic bank, do you?
Yeah.
I don't get the credit card.
Yeah.
There's a difference. But the difference is, the theoretical framework is such that they've tried to match the conventional bank, and which is fine. So a very good example the scholars give is, Burger King in Pakistan and Burger King in UK, you will have the same taste. You will even have the same environment. But Burger King in Pakistan is halal, and Burger King in the UK is actually not halal. Although the environment and the taste and the burger is still the same.
So a non-Islamic bank is non-halal. Tell me one thing that Islamic banking protects an individual from that traditional banking does not.
Well, the main aim of Islamic banking is to protect the individual from riba, from interest.
But riba is always high interest. If interest is inflation, then technically it's not interest, right? It's basically an adjustment for increases in cost of living that take place every year anyway.
So this difference of opinion, I think, does not have much to do with Islamic banking that is going on now. But this is another point that the scholars are discussing these days, especially, when the Supreme Court gave this ruling that all of interest in Pakistan is not legal anymore. This was the ruling last year in June. And all the banks, they gathered with the Ministry of Finance, and the Sheikh was invited, and I also happened to be and they discussed all these points. But in terms of the validity of the Islamic bank, this is not a point of, question of concern. The question of concern is, how do you make, something which is so similar to conventional bank, how does this become
Islamic and halal? Yeah.
So they have their framework.
Right.
So what happens is that, if a person asks for a loan at a bank, if he has a good standing and he has some, backing, and he has assets, the loan, the bank gives him the loan. In Islamic bank, the Islamic bank is not going to give you a loan like this. You have to explain to them, what do you want? And let's say if you say, I want to buy this house. So in papers, what is going to happen is that the Islamic bank is going to buy that house itself, because the bank has the money. And it says that, okay, now, You buy it back from me and I will make small installments. Plus, you will also pay rent for me for living in this house. Now, that amount, what the bank does is it matches with the repayment plan of the conventional bank. So that in both these things, in terms of what the person pays back to the bank is the same. But one is Islamic and one is, one doesn't have riba and one has riba in it, So the framework of Islamic, this is it's much more complicated.
No, I'm sure, because as you're saying it, my mind is actually going towards decentralized finance and tokenization and the blockchain, because I think that's where Islamic banking can actually really thrive, because you can actually tokenize and solve half of the interest-related challenges by putting items and objects on the blockchain or assets and then just break them up into little pieces and divide them out. And they're available to anyone, anywhere around the world.
So it opens up a lot of avenues. So in the theoretical framework, I think more or less the scholars have that it is, it is fine. It is halal. The practical application is still a question. A lot of banks are not able to practically apply that framework.
Right.
So that's another thing. But otherwise, it is a very good means of coming out of haram into the halal world of finance.
Can religions evolve? Because if a message is a core message that has been delivered, and this is all monotheistic religions, right, and their history, they evolve because the people evolve with time, right? And so the message, which shouldn't, it should stay to be the core message, but because the people, the communities are evolving, can the religion evolve with them? Because the world that we live in today is not the world that, let's say, that gave birth to Christianity, let's say 2,000 years ago, or gave birth to Islam, let's say 1,400 years ago, or gave birth to Judaism, which was even older than that. In this world of today, with all the technology that we have, with the connectivity that we had, where I can put on a VR goggle and feel like I am in that place, can I do a remote Hajj, Can these concepts evolve, in your opinion, and in the teachings you've come across?